The old house was quiet, save for the soft ticking of a clock on the wall. Emma sat by her grandmother's bedside, holding her frail hand with a tenderness that spoke of years spent together, birthdays celebrated, stories told by the fireplace, laughter shared in sunlit kitchens. Their bond was unlike any other, forged through decades of love, trust, and countless whispered secrets. Grandma had been sick for months now. The once lively woman who baked pies and sang lullabies had grown silent and still. Emma watched the slow rise and fall of her chest, every breath precious, every moment a treasure. She stayed by her side as best she could, refusing to leave, as if her presence could somehow hold death at bay. That night, after the last flicker of the bedside lamp faded, Emma felt an unusual chill sweep through the room. She pulled the blanket tighter around her shoulders and glanced toward the window where moonlight spilled in, casting long shadows across the floor. A shadow moved, not cast by the moon, but darker, deeper, more distinct. Her heart quickened. Was it her imagination? Fatigue playing tricks? But then, the unmistakable shape took form, a gentle, translucent figure standing just beyond the foot of the bed. It was her grandmother. The same soft eyes, the familiar comforting smile, but ethereal, like a dream hovering on the edge of reality. Emma froze. The room's air thickened with a heavy silence broken only by the faint, distant ticking of the clock. The ghostly figure did not speak but reached out a hand, a gesture of peace and farewell. The presence was fleeting, seconds or minutes, she couldn't tell, before it slowly faded into the darkness. The next morning, Emma awoke to the news she had dreaded. Her grandmother had passed away quietly in the night. The eerie visit was real, a final goodbye or perhaps a warning she could not yet understand. As Emma looked around the now empty room, the lingering feeling of warmth and sorrow stayed with her. She knew this was only the beginning of something much bigger. Days had passed since Emma's last encounter with her grandmother's ghost, but the strange feeling in the old house only grew stronger. The comforting warmth she had felt during that first visit faded, replaced by an uneasy chill that seemed to seep into the very walls. The air was colder now, sharp enough to raise goosebumps on her skin, even when the heaters hummed softly. It started with subtle things, a whisper, so faint it could be mistaken for the wind brushing against the windowpane. Objects shifted just slightly from where she had left them, a photo frame tilted, a chair pulled back from the table, a worn quilt half falling off the sofa. Nothing overt, but enough to make Emma's heart race with anticipation and fear. One evening, as she sat alone in the dim living room, a sudden cold draft brushed past her, despite all windows being closed tight. The whispers grew clearer, almost like a voice trying to break through the silence, calling her name softly, urgently. Emma's eyes darted around the room, searching for the source, but saw nothing. The presence was invisible, yet undeniably real. Determined to understand, Emma began to dig deeper. She opened old boxes in the attic, sifted through yellowed letters and photographs, hoping for a clue her grandmother wanted to share. Then, in a dusty journal tucked away inside a wooden chest, she found something unusual, a page marked with a strange symbol, drawn in shaky ink. The symbol was unfamiliar, like a secret code meant only for her eyes. Her grandmother's handwriting scrawled beneath it, "Find the truth beneath the willow." Emma's mind raced. The old willow tree in the backyard, the place where they had shared countless memories. Was this a message? A clue? A warning? That night, as the moon cast silver light over the garden, Emma stood beneath the sprawling branches of the willow tree. The wind rustled its leaves, whispering secrets in the darkness. She reached down and began to dig gently at the roots, heart pounding. What had her grandmother wanted her to uncover? What family secret had been buried long ago, waiting to be revealed? The ghostly warning had only just begun. Emma had grown accustomed to the strange happenings in the old house, but now the presence of her grandmother's spirit felt more tangible, and more mysterious. It was no longer just shadows and whispers, subtle signs began to appear, confirming that her grandmother was near, watching over her in ways both comforting and unsettling. One afternoon, as Emma worked in the kitchen, the warm, familiar scent of her grandmother's favorite lavender soap filled the air. She paused, breath caught in her throat, searching the empty room. No one was there. The scent lingered, soft and fleeting, like a gentle embrace from beyond the veil. On another evening, as rain pattered against the window, the faint strains of an old lullaby drifted through the house. The melody was unmistakably her grandmother's favorite tune, a song she used to hum softly before bedtime. Emma followed the music, but it seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The old radio was off, and no one else was home. Sleep brought no respite. Her dreams became vivid and intense, almost like memories rather than dreams. She found herself walking through familiar rooms, hearing her grandmother's voice telling stories, giving advice, warning of dangers that felt very real. Sometimes she awoke to find the room bathed in an unexplainable glow or the sense that someone was watching over her. One night, the signs became more urgent. As Emma walked home through a quiet street, a shadow loomed in the corner of her eye, a figure she couldn't quite see but felt was guiding her away from harm. Moments later, a speeding car zoomed past where she had just been standing seconds before. The realization hit her hard, her grandmother's spirit was protecting her. But the comfort was tinged with fear. Was this presence truly benevolent? Or was there something darker beneath the surface, a restless soul unable to move on, tethered to the living by unfinished business? The line between love and haunting blurred, leaving Emma questioning everything she thought she knew about life, death, and what lies beyond. The signs from beyond were undeniable. Her grandmother's spirit was close, watching, guiding, warning. But what was the final message she was trying to send? Emma knew she had to find out, before it was too late. The house no longer felt like a refuge, it had become a stage for something beyond the ordinary. Emma's grandmother's presence, once subtle and gentle, now grew stronger, more vivid, more demanding. The ghost no longer lingered as a faint shadow or whispered hint. It appeared, unmistakably real, in full form. One evening, as Emma stood in the dim hallway, she caught sight of a figure reflected in the old mirror, her grandmother, dressed in the same floral dress Emma remembered from childhood photos. The eyes, full of love yet heavy with sorrow, stared back at her, refusing to disappear. The air grew thick, charged with emotion and history. Messages began appearing in the most unsettling ways. A dusty notebook she hadn't touched was suddenly open on the kitchen table, its pages filled with hurried, familiar handwriting. "Look deeper," the words read, "face the truth." Emma felt the weight of those words settle on her shoulders. It was no longer a ghostly visit, it was a call to confront something long buried. As days passed, vivid flashbacks invaded Emma's mind. She relived moments of her grandmother's life, the laughter echoing through sunlit gardens, the tears shed in quiet rooms, the family arguments carefully hidden behind polite smiles. Memories she had never seen through her own eyes but felt as if she were there, watching and feeling everything anew. The haunting pushed Emma toward fears she had always avoided, the fractured relationships, the unspoken resentments among family members, the secrets kept in silence. Each encounter with the ghost peeled back layers of denial, forcing her to confront the pain and misunderstandings that had festered for years. One night, standing alone in the attic surrounded by relics of the past, Emma faced the ghost once more. The air trembled with urgency. Her grandmother's spirit reached out, not just with sorrow, but with purpose, urging Emma to heal the wounds that had torn their family apart. The haunting was no longer about fear. It was about reckoning, a chance to find peace in the shadows of the past. But could Emma confront the truth without losing herself? The answer lay just beyond the veil. The weight of the past month settled heavily on Emma's heart as she prepared for one final journey. The house, once filled with restless shadows and whispered warnings, had become a place of reflection, but the unease lingered. She knew she needed closure, a way to release the bond that tethered her grandmother's spirit to the world of the living. On a crisp autumn morning, Emma stood at the edge of the cemetery, the sun filtering through golden leaves. The air was cool and still, carrying the scent of earth and fading flowers. Before her lay the simple grave where her grandmother rested, marked by a worn stone engraved with dates and a loving epitaph. Emma knelt, placing fresh lavender and wildflowers, her grandmother's favorite, upon the grave. She pulled from her bag a small box of keepsakes, a locket, a faded photograph, and a handwritten letter she had discovered during her search. With gentle hands, she began a ritual her grandmother once spoke of, a ritual of letting go, of sending love across the veil. As she closed her eyes and whispered a prayer, a soft breeze stirred, carrying with it the familiar scent of lavender. The atmosphere shifted, the air shimmered like heat haze on a summer's day. When Emma opened her eyes, she saw her grandmother's figure, radiant and calm, standing just beyond the headstone. There was no fear in her eyes, only peace and love. The ghost reached out, touching Emma's cheek lightly, a final farewell, a blessing. The tension that had gripped Emma's soul melted away, replaced by a profound sense of calm. The spirit smiled gently before fading slowly into the morning light, finally at rest. Emma sat back, tears streaming quietly down her face. In that moment, she understood the delicate balance between life and death. Her grandmother's visit was not just a haunting, but a bridge, a message that love transcends the boundaries of existence, that even after death, those we cherish remain with us in spirit. The experience had taught Emma about the power of connection, forgiveness, and acceptance. Death was not an end but a transformation. And through it all, love remained the guiding light. As Emma rose and walked away from the grave, the sun broke fully through the trees, bathing her in warm light, a promise of hope, healing, and peace.